strength for the free world. A weekly program presenting documentary evidence of the progress the free world is making towards strength through mutual security. On this foundation of greater economic and social strength, the rearmament of the Allied nations is being built. All around the world, the free peoples are uniting with America's aid to resist want and to withstand aggression. Produced abroad for the people of the free nations present new evidence of their efforts to build strength for a lasting peace.
This might be any big, prosperous city anywhere in Europe or South America. It happens to be Rome, in Italy. Rome is the capital of a country that was just about bankrupt 5 or 6 years ago, without too much hope of ever paying its own way again. It's doing a lot better now, though. Along the Via Veneto, the old crowds are once more overflowing the streets, filling the sidewalk cafes, the well-dressed and the well-heeled, the somebodies and the nobodies, and everywhere, of course, the tourists. You find the same magazines here that you do in Seattle, or Topeka, or Boston. In front of St. Peter's, the people you run into turn out to be sightseeing GIs from Canonsburg, Pennsylvania, having their pictures taken to send back home. With its mellow antiquity, its well-stocked shops and abundance of good food, Rome is one of the great tourist centers of the world. There's everything in plenty now for the tourists, and for the Italians if they have the money. The agreeable old ways are reinstated, the social life of the cafes, the Roman matrons deciding to allow themselves one more pastry, the espresso, the aperitivo. American tourists, discovering Rome and the pleasures of Roman life for the first time, look about them at the luxury goods that fill the shops, the kind of goods skilled Italian craftsmen can turn out as no others can. And they wonder what all the talk is about Italy's poverty. They see business flourishing, thanks in good part to themselves and to the dollars they spend. Last year, for instance, they spent almost $22.5 million. Their wives see couturiers from Rome and Florence beginning to give Paris some real competition. With good designs and lower prices, Italian styles have been getting serious attention lately from the buyers for the big American fashion houses. The great jewelers of Rome and Turin, Milan and Florence offer expensive little trinkets. One like this might easily cost 10 times the whole year's income of an Italian family. But there are people to buy them. There are a few rich still left in Italy. And, of course, there are the Americans. On display in shop windows or written in lights against the sky, you can see 1,000 signs that Italy's hardest times are behind her. There's no place in the world where life is more pleasant these days if you've got the money. This is one Rome, one Italy. But there is another. It's the Italy tourists seldom see. It's the real Italy. This is the real Italy. This mill, these men. If Italy is on the way back to solvency, it's because their work put it there. The people who produce and process Italy's raw materials. The people who make raw materials into usable and marketable products. The people whose hands and brains create the luxury goods for others to buy. The craftsmen with their renowned skills. The professional men. The men of trade and commerce. Because all these had to survive, Italy survived and bettered itself. The average middle-class Italian family eats more today than it did back in 1938 when the fascists were boasting about prosperity. There are more telephones per capita and more radios than before the war. Lots more. People who have a little more money to spend are buying some of the things they need. There's a small surplus for savings, too. Bank deposits are rising, not very fast, but steadily along with Italy's industrial output, which, by the way, is a quarter higher again than it was at its peak in 1938. Year by year, both the number of people putting money in the bank and the amount they put in are increasing. With money a little freer and production up, Italian businessmen are pushing their products and the true tradition of free enterprise. This post-war rash of billboards may ruin Italy's romantic scenery, but it does indicate healthy economic activity. But the one inescapable symbol of recovery is the motor scooter, the Italian counterpart of the American worker's automobile. Nowhere in Italy are you ever out of reach of this ear-splitting post-war gadget. Thousands of once frustrated Italians with a passion for engines but no money for a car now travel uproariously and happily on their Vespas or Lambrettas. Compared to motor scooters, cars are scarce in Italy, but they're by no means as scarce as they were before the war, and the Italian automotive industry is booming. Sports are another index of prosperity. People go to games only when they can spare the price of admission. Attendance at games of all kinds has risen phenomenally since the end of the war. It's estimated that every year about 9 million people go to the football stadiums, an increase of 16% over the pre-war years. Football may be very different in Italy from what it is in the United States, but audience behavior is much the same, right down to the chewing gum. There is no doubt things are better in Italy. But there's no doubt, too, the country is still faced with serious problems.